I'm a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation. I've been a member of All Nations Church for several years. And the church has worked a lot with the community in creating a welcoming environment for these families. We have about 43 different tribes that are moving in, from Lakota, Dakota, the Ho-Chunk, the Ojibwe, Potawatomis, and we're getting a great influence of Yupik and Jupiks. For generations upon generations, Indian people have been an active part of the church, and we have developed our own type of Christianity that is very rooted in the Indian traditions, but embraces the Christian beliefs.
One of the strengths of our worship time together is our prayer life together as a congregation. We may not all be members of a specific American Indian tribe, but that we welcome all people that come here.
With Marlene coming on board as our pastor, we have been marrying the Lutheran traditions and the UCC polity and traditions.
Our local congregational members are not as aware of these agreements. However, we have been a model of the formula of agreement already working. We are a congregation here that works ecumenically at a grassroots level. We had even our own Native ministries that was an ecumenical gathering of American Indian congregations.
I think the real draw of the service is an Indigenous people's perspective on Thanksgiving.
We have worked together with Lutheran congregations in putting together a citywide service of Thanksgiving. One of the places that opened their doors to us was Central Lutheran.
There is an ecumenical service. Lutherans and the Native Americans, some Congregational Church, Methodist Church, the Baptist Church, they all come together under the leadership of Native Americans.
The best experience I've had as far as people coming together in different churches is that Thanksgiving Day. We had one prayer did in 4 different languages. I said that prayer in Dakota. This is one way where all the churches are coming to one. We pray to the same Creator.
In some ways, the formula of agreement is an affirmation of a reality that people in the pews are already aware of and participating in.
They come here because of Jesus.
We feel in this, maybe in Minnesota, that is so Lutheran dominated, we maybe feel more on a par with them in some way, because they have said, you're okay. We've thought you might be a little flaky in the past, but now we decided you're okay.
At least it's a beginning. But don't get into a lot of nitty-gritty doctrinal things. That is when I'm a student of the church history. More you study doctrines, more divisions can happen.
There's a sense of renewal, of renewing energy with the love of Christ that they can share with one another.
It's kinship. We use the word mitakuyapi in all nations, and this means all my relatives. We are all relatives.
And we have a caller on the line from Kentucky tonight. Go ahead, Jude, with your question.
Yes, my question is, what were some of the obstacles that needed to be overcome in order for these 4 churches to enter into full communion with each other?
The major difficulties with these 4 churches had to do with doctrine and to some degree with church structure. In terms of doctrine, there have been a long-standing difference of opinion over how Christ is present in the Lord's Supper. And we finally understood that both traditions, both Reformed and the Lutheran traditions, believed that Christ indeed was present, but the question really was how. And we decided that the how was not church dividing. The polity issues we've already worked on, and I think that we'll be able to move forward with those as well.
Okay. If you are interested again in purchasing a copy of this program, you can call 1-800-328-4648, and we'll come back to more callers after this short break. Stay with us. And And welcome back to Hope for a New Century, where we're speaking with Presiding Bishop H. George Anderson of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We are discussing the historic Formula of Agreement, which was voted upon and approved by 3 Reformed denominations and the ELCA this summer, thereby ending 3 centuries of division among several Christian denominations. Now tell me, Bishop, why weren't there others involved in this agreement, say the Methodists or the Baptists?
Well, these agreements are kind of the tip of an iceberg. They are the product of decades of discussion. And we have been in conversation with both Methodists and Baptists, but we've not come to the point yet with those particular traditions where we're able to take this next step. However, the Moravians and we have been in conversation, and it looks as though in 1999 we'll have the opportunity to have a discussion on the possibility of full communion with the Moravians.
So more and more are coming into the fold, so to speak. Larry from Tennessee is on the line with us. Larry, go ahead with your question.
I have a question for the bishop regarding the relationship. With other Lutherans and the implications that this agreement has with those other Lutheran denominations. For example, is it the decision of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America that they have more in common with the Reformed?
Larry, excuse me for a second. If you could turn your television down, we wouldn't have that feedback and we might be able to hear you more clearly. Can you do that for us?
I didn't realize it was up. My question has to do with the implications of this decision with regard to the relationship of the ELCA to other Lutherans.
Yeah.
And could it be then perceived that the ELCA is saying then that there is more in common, more Lutheran in these other churches, the Presbyterian Reformed and the UCC, than perhaps the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod or the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod?
Well, there are, in fact, good reasons to continue working together as Lutherans in this country. I would say that we still believe we have much more in common with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod than we do with the Reformed traditions. However, we have gone about as far as we can at present working with these other Lutheran sisters and brothers, and so we're basically saying we wish to continue to expand our relationships and have thus moved further with the Reformed. I think and I pray that we will be able to continue to maintain relationships with other Lutherans in this country, and as God gives us the opportunity, increase and develop our kinship and our cooperative work there. We have some going on now, we've always had some, and we're always looking for more.
Thanks, Larry, for that question. Now, Bishop, give me another example of churches that have been working with the intent of the Formula of Agreement, maybe in an informal way.
Well, there's a really wonderful one in the mountains of Virginia. There we have 3 local churches who have actually formalized a way to work together, and they are literally building for that future together.
Great, let's take a look at that.
I feel like I belong to a family.
There's a great spirit here.
We are coming together as a community to express our love for God and for each other.
The Smith Mountain Lake area is primarily a retirement community, although since we've opened this new facility, we've had just tons of young families coming and visiting and taking a look. The Trinity Ecumenical Parish consists of Trinity Lutheran Church, Trinity Presbyterian Church, Trinity Episcopal Church. Because the lay people here in the lake area realized that there was not enough base for 3 separate congregations, and they realized what they could do if they worked together. And that it was on July the 13th, 10 years ago today, in 1987, when a fledgling little group held its very first worship service with 13 to 15 or so folks. All of those, would you just stand up where you are so folks can see you?
From the very beginning, we had the support of the 2 bishops and the general presbyter, but we found that they were slower moving than we wanted to move, so we had to push them a little bit.
They were adamant that this could happen and kept saying, this can work, assure us, we're not crazy. And the only function I could do was either to block it which I didn't think was my role to do, or to support it, and so I have supported it from the beginning.
Each of the three congregations has its own set of officers, and they all relate to their denomination in the way that any normal congregation would. But beyond that, every decision is made here by the parish council. We have one budget, one program, one ministry, one pastor.
We get the best of all of the three denominations.
We have Lutheran liturgy 1 month, then we have Episcopal 1 month, and Presbyterian 1 month.
Help us to face it up to ourselves.
And there is a richness to the variations.
That in Jesus Christ we are forgiven.
Having a Presbyterian pastor, he cannot give me communion on Lutheran Sundays, which is why the Concordat and the others are very important to us, because that would mean that Gary would be able to give us communion on all Sundays.
Well, and I think you need to...
It's more important to be a loving, caring Christian than it is to be a Lutheran or Episcopalian or a Presbyterian. We respect everyone else's feelings, we respect the backgrounds from which they have come, and so we have the Lutherans always sitting in the back, and they cling to that part of the convention.
Do you always get along with your brothers and sisters?
Here we have a new building, and already it's starting to be looking like it's small.
We are a group. We are three denominations, and it's the way we like it. Even in expansion, we would not want to separate at all. It would not be the same group if we split off into the three denominations.
I say woe to the bishop who suggests it. I certainly won't be the one.
We are worshiping Christ, and the common bond is drawing us together, and I think this is the way to go.
When we see the faith of each other in song and in prayer and in care for one another, then it seems to me that we're being the church, regardless of our denominational labels. All I can say is, where it can possibly occur, follow the lead of the lay people. They know what they can do together, sometimes better than anyone else.
All that we have and all that we are is a gift.
Jesus prayed that we would all be one, and this is a small step toward making all God's people one.
Demetria, by coincidence, this very Sunday, Trinity Church is dedicating its new facility that was mentioned there in the video. So I hope all those members are watching. We certainly celebrate this new groundbreaking launch with you.
We sure do. And we've got another caller. Bill is on the line from Pennsylvania. Go ahead.
Bishop Anderson, my question to you is, do you feel we have built an larger gulf with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and the Wisconsin Synod with the adoption of the agreement? And if we have, what can be done to correct it?
Bill, that's a very sensitive point for Lutherans, because we do want to maintain our traditional relationships with, within the Lutheran family. I've spoken with the leadership of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and while they could not follow us, of course, into this agreement, they have said that the cooperative work that we do together will continue. And I'm very grateful for their willingness to do that, and I hope that we can build in the future links to make sure that the Lutheran family also stays strong and recognizes its long tradition together.
Bishop, in the story that we watched, they were alternating liturgies month by month. Is that something that's up to each individual congregation, how they want to do it on a weekly basis?
It depends pretty much on what the local arrangement is. The one we saw, the example from Virginia, happened to be three congregations that worship in the same building. Mm-hmm. And so, since they worship together, they use each of the three forms of worship. In many instances, there would be two congregations, such as the situation was in White Sulphur Springs. And there, often they would alternate from one to another, depending which congregation was meeting at a particular time. In other circumstances, the congregations might be separated by 20 miles, one a Presbyterian, one a Lutheran, or a UCC. And in those cases, obviously, each congregation would continue using their own form of worship, and the pastor would be the one who would change back and forth.
Do you think the formula of agreement has had a positive effect on diversity within congregations, perhaps bringing in women, minorities, and others?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, when we listen to these folks, they're already ahead of us. These congregations are straining at the bit to work together more fully, and they appreciate the diversity which can come. In terms of our ministries in our churches, I think it's going to help us because, for example, the Episcopal Church is quite strongly involved in Native American ministries. We can all learn from what the Episcopalians are doing. The Presbyterians have had a strong tradition with Koreans. African Americans are stronger in several of these denominations than they are in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. So it gives us a chance to learn from each other and perhaps to share leadership so that we can be better able to be diverse.
On the question of ordination of women, do they all do it? Will they all do it?
All of the 4 denominations that came together in this formula of agreement do ordain women. The Episcopal Church also ordains women, although there are some dioceses that have not yet done that. But I think the recent action this summer means that all of the Episcopal dioceses will also ordain women. So there we have a common basis.
Another caller joins us now. Kay from Illinois, go ahead with your question.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kay. I'm a Catholic, and I think it's wonderful that all these churches are coming together on issues, and I think it's what God intended, that we should all be one religion. What I want to know is what moves have been made in coming together with the Catholic Church, and what issues are keeping us apart from you?
Well, that's a very important question to Lutherans, particularly because we've been in dialogue with Roman Catholics in this country since the Second Vatican Council. That means 30 years. I think that this summer we took a giant step toward better understanding when Lutherans agreed that it is now possible for us to talk about the central doctrine that divided us during the Reformation, the doctrine of justification. We can now talk about that together as Lutherans and Catholics, that we have in fact developed a joint statement. Now, the next step for that joint statement is that Lutherans around the world and the Vatican, for the Catholics, will look at this statement and, we hope, validate it. That is, agree and approve it. And if that occurs, it will mean that it will be possible for us to work together on a much deeper basis. There are still issues that separate us, largely issues dealing with ministry, including the ordination of women that we were just talking about. I think that we just have to trust that the Holy Spirit will guide us into this new century, which is ahead, with the same grace and surprises that we have received in this century. And so we'll just see what the Holy Spirit has in store.
Thank you, Kay. Our next caller is John from Indiana. Go ahead.
My question is the dialogue you're having with the Catholics right now, that we believe in having communion once a week, whereas they believe that you should participate in communion every day. And that seems to be a big difference between the Lutherans and the Catholics.
There's not so much difference. Catholics certainly urge frequent communion, and whenever a Catholic goes to Mass, that Catholic would assume that communion would be a part of that service. But I think that most Catholics commune once a week, and Lutherans offer communion each week in at least one of their services. That's the goal that we've set ourselves. Not all congregations do that, but it's clear that Lutherans and Catholics both see the sacrament as important, but the details as to how that's worked out in terms of individual lives tend to differ depending on the congregation and the believer.
On to our next caller, Bishop. David from Ohio. Go ahead. David, are you with us? Maybe not. Can you allay the fears or at least the apprehensions of folks who may believe that under this formula of agreement they're compromising beliefs?
That's a very important question. If we think about what we believe as Christians, many of us repeat the Apostles' Creed, for example. It's a kind of guide to essential Christian doctrines. We have that in common. And I think what the formula of agreement has done is to recognize this basic agreement in beliefs. It recognizes, though, that there are still differences between the churches in some other doctrines. But we have decided and declared that these other doctrines are not church dividing, so that it is possible for the Reformed Church to continue believing what it's believed and the Lutherans what we believe, but we hope to enter now into conversation. We call it mutual admonition and affirmation, so that we can say, yes, we understand you there, but have you thought about this? And in that kind of conversation, we hope that God will lead us into deeper truth. At the same time, we still maintain with joy the traditions and the doctrines that each of us have held in the past.
Our caller is back right now. David from Ohio, go ahead with your question.
Yes, good evening. I've heard you refer to the stumbling blocks that you have with the Missouri Synod, and you say you've alluded to the fact that you've gone as far as you can with that group, yet you have sat here during this evening and proclaimed how well you've done with compromising with all the Reformed churches, and obviously compromise is a tremendous amount of that reason for the agreement. What is the stumbling block with the Missouri Synod, and why do I get the feeling that the ELCA is getting ready to drop the name Lutheran and become Reformed?
We're very proud of our tradition, David, and proud to continue to bear the name Lutheran. Our conversations with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod have all the intensity that family quarrels tend to have. We both see in each other a common background, but we have had a different vision of what unity is to consist in. The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod has said there is a very large complex of beliefs. All of them are essential. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America has said there are certain core beliefs, and these are essential, and in others we may allow for variation. We can still testify to our truth, but we're willing to listen to and converse with others. It's in that relationship that we will move forward and hope that we can work with the Missouri Synod as well.
And quickly, Bishop, what can we look forward to in the future, in the new millennium?
Well, I guess that's up to the Holy Spirit. There are going to be surprises, just as there have been in these last decades. I'm excited, though, to know that new things will come. And I want to thank people in local communities who have brought this new age of ecumenism about.
Thank you very much, Bishop Anderson, for being with us and shedding light on this new chapter in church history. If you'd like to order a copy of this program, call 1-800-328-4648. A VHS tape will cost you $19.95. Ask specifically for program number 69-4909. Thank you so much for joining us on this celebration of faith. From all of us here, we wish all of you at home a good night.
This program is available on videotape. To order a copy, call 1-800-328-4648 and ask for tape number 69-4909. The price is $19.95. Funding for this program was provided in part by Lutheran Brotherhood, a fraternal benefit society.
This has been a production of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.